You ever walk into a place that feels like it remembers you, even when you don't remember it? That's what happened to me last night. The bartender froze, his eyes locked on mine, and then, in this low, trembling voice, he said my mother's name. That's when my heart stopped. If you think family secrets die with the past, you're wrong. Because that night, a stranger's whisper tore open a truth my mother had buried for decades. Hey, before I tell you what he said, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, by the end of this story, you'll understand why some secrets are better left buried. It was supposed to be just a quiet night. I was back in my hometown after 15 years, for reasons I wish I could say were happy ones. The rain hadn't stopped all week. Streets looked smaller, emptier, and when I saw that old pub sign flickering in the dark, something pulled me in. Like gravity, or fate. The smell of whiskey, wood, and old memories hit me like a punch. I took a seat at the counter. The same counter, I realized later, my mother used to sit at. And that's where it started. The bartender looked up. His hand froze mid-polish, eyes wide, almost scared. He whispered, "You look just like her." I laughed it off at first. Bad idea, because the next thing he said changed everything I thought I knew about who my mother really was. What he told me next wasn't just a secret. It was a warning. I didn't plan to come back here. Not after everything that happened. But life has a funny way of dragging you back to places you swore you'd never see again. My mother's funeral had been last month. Small, quiet, too quiet. No one spoke much. Just polite words, awkward hugs, and that feeling that everyone knew something I didn't. I told myself I'd only stay a few days. Clear out her house, sort through her things, and leave. Simple. But nothing about coming home ever feels simple, does it? The town looked older, smaller somehow. The same cracked sidewalks, same leaning trees. Even the same gossiping neighbor still pretending not to stare from behind her curtains. Some things never change, and maybe that's the problem. My mother never talked about her past. Growing up, anytime I asked about my father or her childhood, she'd smile that tight smile and say, "Some stories are better left untold." I thought it was just her way of avoiding pain. But now, standing in her empty kitchen, surrounded by dusty photo frames and unopened letters, it felt more like a warning. So that night, when the rain started pouring and I saw the lights from O'Malley's pub glowing through the mist, something in me said, "Go inside." Maybe I was just looking for comfort, maybe a distraction, maybe fate just wanted to have a little fun at my expense. Either way, I pushed open that door. The smell hit first. Whiskey, smoke, and memories I didn't even know I had. The place hadn't changed. Same faded wallpaper, same creaky bar stools. Even the jukebox was still broken, stuck on some old country song that kept repeating halfway through the chorus. I almost laughed.
Wait a
This
minute,
time
pal.
forgot this
Have some
place,
on me.
I muttered. That's when I saw him, the bartender. Broad shoulders, gray hair, the kind of face that's seen too much and drinks too little. He was polishing a glass when he noticed me, and that look froze me to the core. Recognition, shock, maybe even guilt, like he'd just seen a ghost. "Evening," I said, trying to sound casual. "Been a while since I was here." He didn't answer, just stared. His hands trembled slightly. Then he said quietly, "You're Mary's kid, aren't you?" I froze. Nobody called my mother Mary anymore. Not since before I was born. "How do you?" I started to ask, but he just shook his head, eyes darting away. "Didn't think I'd ever see that face again," he whispered. Now I've seen people act strange before, but this was different. His voice had this mix of regret and fear, like he was carrying a secret too heavy to put down. I wanted to ask more, but something in his eyes told me to stop. So I ordered a drink instead. Whiskey, neat. Same thing my mother used to drink, though I didn't realize that yet. He poured it slowly, hands still shaking. When he slid the glass toward me, he said, "You shouldn't have come back." I laughed it off. "You sound like my high school principal." He didn't laugh, not even a smile. That's when the unease started creeping in. Slow, quiet, like smoke under a door. I should have walked out right then, but I didn't. Because curiosity can be louder than fear. And maybe, just maybe, I needed to know what he wasn't saying. He stood there for a moment, silent, like he was trying to decide whether to tell me the truth or pretend he'd never seen me. The air between us felt heavy, like the pub itself was holding its breath. I took a sip of the whiskey, smooth but bitter in all the wrong ways, and waited for him to speak. "You really don't remember me, do you?" he finally said. His voice was soft but strained, like the words were fighting their way out. I shook my head. "Should I?" He gave this small, broken laugh. "Guess not. You were just a kid. Your mother used to bring you here sometimes, before everything went to hell. That stopped me cold." "My mother? Here? With me? That couldn't be right." "No, that's not possible," I said. "She never even let me near this part of town." He nodded slowly, wiping his hands on a rag that didn't need wiping. "Yeah, she'd say that now. Can't blame her for wanting to forget." The silence stretched again, longer this time. The music faded. Even the old clock above the bar seemed to tick slower. I felt like I was being pulled backward through time, one uneasy heartbeat at a time. "What are you talking about?" I asked finally. What did she want to forget? He looked around, at the empty tables, the rain sliding down the windows, and leaned in closer. "She used to come here every Friday," he said. "Same table in the back. Always ordered whiskey. Neat, never stayed long. Always left before midnight." It sounded harmless enough, but the way he said it made my stomach twist, like there was something hidden between his words. "And?" I pressed. He hesitated, eyes flicking toward the hallway behind the bar. "She was never alone," he said quietly. "Always came with the same man. Tall, dark coat, expensive watch. Didn't talk much, but he'd look at her like—" He stopped himself, like he shouldn't have. The words hit like a punch. I could feel the blood drain from my face. "You're saying she was—" "I'm saying she had her reasons," he interrupted. "And I'm not judging her. None of us knew the whole story. But whatever they were mixed up in, it wasn't simple." I stared at him, trying to read his face, but there was something guarded there. Pain, maybe, or guilt. My voice came out quieter than I meant. "Why are you telling me this now?" He sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Because when you walked in, I thought, maybe it was a sign. Maybe you deserve to know what really happened that night." "What night?" He didn't answer right away. He reached under the counter and pulled out an old photograph. The corners yellowed, the surface cracked. He placed it on the bar in front of me. I didn't even want to look, but I did. My mother was in it. Younger, smiling, her arm around that same man. And standing a few steps behind them, half hidden by the frame, was the bartender. I looked up at him, my voice barely a whisper. "You were there." He nodded slowly. "I was the one who closed up that night." Then his eyes darkened, and I was the one who found them after. My heart kicked in my chest. "Found them? Found who?" He didn't answer. He just stared at the photo like it might speak for him. Then he slid it back, tucked it under the counter, and said, "You should go home, kid. Some memories don't belong to you." That should have been the end of it. I should have walked out and never looked back. But his hand was trembling, and his voice cracked just enough for me to know he was hiding something bigger. Something worse. I leaned forward. "If you know something about my mother, you need to tell me. Right now." He looked at me. Really looked. Like he was seeing her ghost standing right in front of him. Then he said something I'll never forget. "She wasn't who you think she was." The room felt colder. The hum of the bar lights. The rain outside. Everything faded until all I could hear was my own heartbeat. "What does that mean?" I whispered. He took a long breath. "It means your mother had secrets that could ruin more than just her name. And if you start digging, you might not like what you find." He turned away after that, pretending to clean glasses again, but I could tell by the way his hands shook. He wasn't done. Not yet. I sat there for a moment, frozen, staring at the back of the bartender's head. The weight of his words clung to me like the smell of smoke in that pub. Thick, heavy, impossible to shake off. She wasn't who you think she was. That single sentence echoed in my mind, louder than the storm outside. I took another sip of whiskey, though it did nothing to steady my hands. My voice came out low, cautious. "You can't just say something like that and stop talking." He didn't turn around. "Some truths don't do anyone any good." "Maybe not," I said, leaning forward. "But lies don't protect anyone either." He finally turned to face me. His eyes were tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep but from carrying something too long. "You really want to know?" he asked. "I didn't come here for bedtime stories." He studied me for a second, then nodded slowly, as if making peace with himself. "All right, but once I tell you this, you'll wish you hadn't asked." He motioned toward the back room, past the hallway that led to the old storage area. I followed, feeling that uneasy mix of dread and curiosity crawl up my spine. The hallway smelled of damp wood and spilled liquor. Faded pictures lined the wall. Customers from years ago. Smiling faces caught in time. He stopped at the last door, pulled out a key and said quietly, "She used to come here after hours. Said it was safer that way." The door creaked open. Inside, the small room was dimly lit, cluttered with crates and old bottles. But in the corner, on a dusty table, sat a small metal box. The bartender walked over, hesitated, then placed it in front of me. "She made me promise to keep this safe," he said. "Said if anyone ever came asking about her, I should only open it if they looked like her." He paused. "And you do." The box was locked, but the key dangled from a string around his wrist. He untied it, handed it to me and stepped back. My hands shook as I turned the key. Inside were a few old photographs, a folded letter, and a small gold locket. I picked up the letter, yellowed, the ink smudged from years of handling. My mother's handwriting. I unfolded it slowly. The first line nearly stopped my breath. "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't hide it any longer." I read on. Each word felt like a blade. She wrote about the man she'd been seeing. Not a stranger, but someone she'd known long before she met my father. His name was Daniel, my father's brother.
I'll be out to see you day after tomorrow.
The letter described a time before I was born,
You'll like
when
it
my mother
there,
had
Daddy.
fallen in love with
You
Daniel,
didn't see the ducks
but
and
he
chickens when
disappeared
you were
after a
out there.
violent
It's
incident
got
no one
ducks
dared to talk about. She
and
thought he was
chickens,
dead.
and I know
Years
2
later,
little
he
girls
showed up
already.
again, broken,
One's
hunted,
Linda,
carrying secrets of his own.
and one's
She met him
Barbara.
here, in this
And they're
very
going to be
pub,
my
to
very
help him
best
escape the
friends.
past.
Aren't they, Mommy?
But the letter turned darker
Oh, you'll
toward
have
the
lots
end.
of friends.
She
Dave.
wrote about a night that changed
I wish
everything.
you were coming, Daddy.
A confrontation.
Are you really
a
gonna
gun,
play my
A
song?
mistake that
That's
could
right.
never be undone.
Special
She didn't say who
afternoon
pulled the
concert.
trigger. Just
You're gonna
that
play
Daniel
my
never
song,
walked out of that room
and I won't
alive.
be there.
My chest
I won't
tightened.
hear it.
"You were there," I said quietly.
Well,
The bartender nodded slowly.
I'll tell
She
you what.
called me after it happened.
We'll have a
Said it was
special
an
private
accident.
performance
Said
just
he
for you,
attacked her
right
first.
now.
She begged
Come
me
on.
not to call the cops. "So you helped her cover it up?" His jaw tensed. I buried him out back, near the
Madam
old shed.
Ramsey, Miss
It was raining
Ramsey, if
hard
you'll
that
be
night.
seated, please.
Washed everything clean. Or so we thought. The room
All right.
spun for a moment.
The
I
concert
gripped the edge of the
begins.
table, feeling my stomach twist. My father, he never knew her. He shook his head. She told him Daniel left town. Said he couldn't handle the guilt of what happened years before. Your father believed her, mostly because he wanted to. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to hate her, but instead all I felt was this cold, hollow ache spreading through me. The woman who raised me, the woman who told me to always tell the truth, had been living a lie. The bartender sat down across from me, rubbing his hands together. She wasn't a bad person. She just did what she thought she had to do. I didn't respond. My mind was a blur. Flashes of her laughter, her sudden silences, her warnings to stay away from this side of town. It all made sense now. Every small, strange thing she ever said had been part of the cover-up. I picked up the locket next. Inside was a small photo. My mother on one side, Daniel on the other. Both smiling. Both happy. The sight of it made my throat tighten. "She loved him," I said quietly. "Yes," he replied, "but she loved you more. That's why she carried that secret to her grave." I stared at the letter again, my vision blurring. The last line was written shakily. "Forgive me. I only wanted to protect you." The room felt smaller, heavier. Like the air itself didn't want to move. The bartender stood, walked to the doorway, and said softly, "You have her eyes, you know. The same fire, the same stubborn heart. But don't let this destroy you like it did her." I looked up at him, trying to make sense of it all. "You said you found them after. What did you mean?" He hesitated, eyes flicking toward the door. I mean, she wasn't alone when I got here. Someone else was watching. Someone who knew what she did. The way he said it made every hair on my neck stand up. Who? I asked. He didn't answer. He just stared past me, toward the window where the rain was pounding harder now, and whispered, "That's a story for another night." I followed his gaze, and for a split second, I swore I saw a shadow move outside. But when I turned back, the bartender was gone. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of what just happened. The bartender was there 1 second, standing in the doorway, his voice trembling. And the next, he'd vanished. The back room felt suddenly colder, quieter. Only the sound of the rain hammering against the windows filled the silence. "Hello?" I called out, stepping into the hallway. No answer. Just the creak of the old floorboards and the faint hum of the lights. The air smelled of old liquor and dust. I half expected him to jump out, to say it was some twisted joke, but no one was there. I walked back to the bar counter. The photograph was gone. So was the metal box. Only the half-empty glass of whiskey remained. Beads of condensation running down its side like sweat. Something about this felt off. Too deliberate. Like he wanted me to find that letter, to know the truth, and then disappear before I could ask the real question. Who else knew? I stepped outside, the rain soaking through my jacket almost instantly. The night was darker now, the streets emptier. But down the alley beside the pub, I saw a dim light flicker, the shed he mentioned. The one where Daniel was supposedly buried. Every part of me screamed not to go there. But curiosity and fear have always been terrible partners. One dares you forward while the other begs you to stop. I walked anyway. The shed door was half-rotted, hanging crooked on its hinges. I pushed it open, the wood groaning in protest. Inside, the smell hit me first. Damp earth, rust, and something else I couldn't name. Old tools hung on the wall, a shovel propped against the corner. I took a step closer, my flashlight beam cutting through the shadows. Then I saw it, a patch of disturbed ground near the far wall. Someone had been digging recently. The dirt was darker, fresh. My pulse quickened. I knelt down, brushing my hand across the soil. For a moment I thought I imagined it, but then I saw it. A piece of metal sticking out from the ground. I pulled it free. It was a badge. Police issue. Old, corroded, but still readable. Detective Daniel Mercer. My uncle. The man my mother supposedly loved. The man she'd killed. But if he was buried here, why was his badge on the surface? Unless he wasn't buried anymore. I stumbled back, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. Then I noticed something else. A faint trail of muddy footprints leading out the back of the shed. Someone had been here. Recently. Suddenly, I heard footsteps crunching behind me. Slow, deliberate. My breath caught. "Looking for something?" a voice said. I turned around. The bartender stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his coat. Only now he didn't look like the tired, regretful man from before. There was something harder in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "I had to know the truth," I shot back. "You said she wasn't who I thought she was. Well, what about you? Who the hell are you?" He sighed, stepping inside, the floor creaking under his boots. "I told you I was here that night, but what I didn't tell you is that your mother wasn't the only one who pulled the trigger." My throat went dry. "What do you mean?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then, almost gently, he said, "She didn't kill Daniel. I did." For a moment I thought I'd misheard him. The words didn't make sense. "No, you said she covered for me," he interrupted. He was threatening her. He had a gun and I acted before I thought. She begged me not to say anything, said it would destroy everything. So she took the blame, told me to bury the body and disappear. I did what she asked. He looked away, his voice cracking. She carried my sin until the day she died. The room felt like it was closing in on me. My hands were trembling so badly I had to grip the edge of the table to stay steady. "You let her live with that guilt her entire life," I said. He nodded slowly. "She wanted it that way. Said she'd rather people think she was a killer than let me rot in prison." The anger rose inside me like fire. "You think that makes it better?" He didn't answer. He just looked at me, like he was waiting for judgment. I stepped closer. "Why tell me now?" "Because someone else knows," he said quietly. Someone who's been waiting a long time for you to come back. That sent a chill down my spine. Who? He hesitated. Your father. I stared at him, my mind spinning. That's impossible. My father's been dead for 10 years. Is he? He asked. Or did your mother tell you that to protect you? Before I could answer, the sound of a car engine rumbled outside. Headlights swept across the shed walls. The bartender glanced at the window, his face pale. It's too late, he muttered. He found you. Who? I started, but he grabbed my arm, eyes wide. Listen to me. Whatever happens next, you run. Don't look back, and don't trust anyone who says they knew her. The door burst open, a flash of light, a silhouette in the rain, and for a moment, I thought I saw him. My father, or something that looked too much like him. Then everything went black. I remember leaving that pub with my pulse still pounding in my ears. The night air was cold, sharp, almost like it wanted to slice through the confusion clouding my mind. My mother's past, the lies, the money, the secret name. Everything the bartender told me spun around like a cruel carousel that wouldn't stop. For days, I didn't sleep properly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, my mother's calm, loving face, overlapping with the image of that mysterious photograph. She wasn't who she said she was. But then again, maybe none of us ever truly are. Maybe we're all just versions of who we need to be to survive. I started digging. Not just into her past, but into mine too. Bank statements, letters, old photo albums, things I'd never paid attention to before. Every small detail suddenly looked like a clue. Every silence she'd ever kept now screamed for explanation. I didn't know what I was searching for, but I knew I couldn't let it go. Because deep down, I needed to know who I really was, and what she'd been hiding from. A week later, I found myself standing outside the old address the bartender had whispered about. A small, decaying house on the edge of town. The kind of place where secrets go to rot quietly. I stood there for a long time, just staring. The mailbox had her maiden name scratched out, and a new one written in marker, Levine. My mother had been living a second life, or maybe escaping one. Inside, the air was stale. Dust clung to everything. There were photographs on the wall. Her younger self, smiling, standing next to a man I'd never seen before. But the strangest thing? There was a baby in one of the pictures. Me. But she wasn't holding me. The man was. That was the moment everything broke inside me. I sat on the floor, the photo trembling in my hands. And it hit me. My real father. The man I'd been told died before I was born. Hadn't. My mother hadn't lost him. She'd left him. And the bartender, he hadn't just been some random stranger who recognized me. He was the son of that man. My half-brother. I didn't know whether to feel betrayed or connected. My mind was chaos. How do you face the truth when it's been buried beneath your entire life? How do you forgive someone who lied to protect you, yet destroyed your sense of identity in the process? Days turned into nights. I tried reaching out to the bartender again, but he'd disappeared. Quit the pub, no trace. Maybe he'd said his piece and decided to let me deal with the aftermath. Or maybe he was never meant to stay in my story for long. Just a messenger. I eventually went to see my mother. She was frailer than I remembered, sitting by the window, her eyes lost somewhere far away. I didn't shout. I didn't demand answers. I just sat down beside her, the photo between us, and said softly, "You could have told me." She didn't look at me for a long time. Then finally she whispered, "I wanted to protect you from the kind of life I ran from." There was no grand confession, no dramatic breakdown, just that quiet sentence, and a tear she didn't wipe away. And maybe that's what closure really is. Not the full truth, not every answer, but the decision to stop running from what's already been done. That night, I burned the photograph. Not out of anger, but acceptance. Some stories are too heavy to carry forever. I walked out to the same bar again weeks later. Only this time, it wasn't for answers. It was for peace. The bartender's replacement asked what I'd like. I smiled faintly and said, "Something that tastes like memory, but ends a little sweeter." He laughed, not understanding. And that was okay. Not everything needs to be understood. Some things just need to be felt. As I sipped my drink, I realized something. Secrets might change your past, but they don't have to define your future. My mother wasn't perfect, but she was human. And maybe so was I. If you've ever uncovered something about your family that shook you to your core, know this: you're not alone. Sometimes the truth doesn't break you. It rebuilds you, piece by piece. And maybe, just maybe, it's what finally sets you free. Before you go, if this story hit a nerve, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the stories that hurt the most are the ones that heal us the deepest. You know, sometimes life doesn't give you all the answers neatly wrapped in a bow. Sometimes it just hands you fragments, pieces of a puzzle you weren't even looking for. And it's up to you to decide what to do with them. When I walked out of that bar for the last time, I didn't feel angry anymore, just lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight that wasn't mine to hold. The truth about my mother didn't destroy me. It reminded me how strong she had been, how strong I could be too. We all have chapters we didn't write but were forced to live through. But here's the thing: what defines you isn't the secrets you uncover, it's what you do after. Whether you forgive, confront, or simply walk away, that's where freedom begins. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of your own hidden truths, don't leave without hitting that like button. Subscribe for more stories that stir your heart, twist your gut, and maybe make you see yourself a little clearer. Because sometimes the past whispers not to haunt you, but to help you finally let go. And that's the beauty of it. It means you're still alive to begin again.